Afternoon, Stav here. It's been a little while since I've done much of an update for you guys on the 3S-GTE powered Corolla sleeper, but I've got quite a big one at the moment because I've made a fair few changes. A few things. First up, I have heat wrapped the top boost pipe and also some of the initial one there, as well as re-wrapped the downpipe. This was because with obviously the manifold and engine heat rising, it was making this pipe bloody hot. It was heat soaking it basically, and this has made a noticeable difference. This bit stayed pretty cool, so I've left it. I've modified the intake a little bit again. It is now a completely straight metal shot from the turbo to the filter, or the other way around in reality, and that should help a bit, but we will see on that one. But most importantly, as you can see with all these nozzles and pipework, is I've now got Devil's Own methanol injection kit fitted. Well, alcohol injection as it's officially called on there, but people usually spray either pure water or a 50-50 mix. But on mine, I am going pure methanol, because I'm using it as part of the fueling as well as for cooling, which is something they do a lot in America but hardly at all in the UK. But while I've ran water before and I've done a water meth mix before, I've never done pure meth, so this is a first for me, but it seems to be, well, from my very early initial tests, a bloody great idea. This kit is a 6-port kit, which initially I bought for running direct port, so one for each inlet runner. But unfortunately on this engine, and this car especially, it's practically an engine out job to remove the inlet manifold, so it's not direct port for the moment. I've got the 4 nozzles in the top inlet pipe, which while you could get away with one, the kit allowed me to use 4 smaller ones, and technically that would be a little bit better anyway. So there it is really. I've got one nozzle pre-compressor, which is what I've used with great success in the past, to the extent that it's much more effective than any other, post-compressor setup in my experience, and it caused no damage to the turbo, unlike what people on the internet who've never done it before like to say. And more unusually, and a new one for me, it's also injecting into the compressor housing at sort of the very start of the snail. This is a new one to me, but I've seen testing done in America with this, and people say it's just as effective, if not more so, than pre-compressor. So I'm giving it a go. I don't know what you guys know about methanol injection or water injection, but basically it partly lowers the inlet temps, because, wow, methanol or water, it absorbs heat. Methanol, when you put it on your hand, is bloody cold. Less heat is less chance of detonation, so you can safely run more boost. On my RX-7, could only safely run about 0.8 bar boost with no water injection at all, and I ran a big single pre-compressor nozzle, and it made it safe running 1.5 bar boost, so pretty much doubled the boost just by adding water injection. Like I mentioned already, this setup is methanol injection, so I'm running 100% methanol, no water at all, and I'm using that for part of the fueling. So while at the moment the current map is only safe to about 14.5-15 psi on normal fuel, with the methanol on, I should be able to add an absolute shitload more boost, or indeed the more airflow from the bigger turbo that I'm going to fit shortly. This is still the other hybrid that I bought the car with, so I should be able to crank up the boost on this to max it out, and then beyond that turn it up even more using methanol as the fueling. The main advantage with methanol is, well, A, it does a hell of a lot of cooling because it's damn cold. B, it's incredibly high octane, so it's very resistant to det, which is why you see all the drag cars and so on running pure methanol fuel, and they can run sort of 100 psi plus boost in some applications, which is just insane, and commonly 60 psi plus. thanks to the wonders of methanol as a fuel. Another good thing with methanol is it's pretty cheap. It's £1.50 a litre at the moment if you buy it in sort of 20 litre batches, which is barely more than decent pump fuel. So it's not like race fuel, which can be like 4 or 5 times the price at sometimes, but yeah, £1.50 a litre for the best race fuel you can get. The reason for the pre-compressor setup, and it's something that I'm really a big fan of, is because if you're cooling air as it goes into the turbo before it's even compressed, it's more efficient. Basically, it makes the turbo more efficient. Effectively, it acts like a bigger turbo, so you're getting more power and more boost for any given turbo size. So it just makes the turbo more efficient, especially when you're maxing them out, and you can really feel the difference there. I mean, on my RX-7, the so-called RX-7 experts claimed the performance of my car wasn't possible on the turbo size I had, which was this crappy little HKS TO4E, but thanks to the pre-compressor injection, it really did do the performance that they claim wasn't possible. But that's because it made the compressor so much more efficient. What I'm running here is basically 6 small jets. So rather than one big one like a lot of people run, well, most people run one fairly small one. This is a lot more fuel than most people run. Well, most people only run a 50-50 mix. Another big advantage of methanol is it's very, very tuner friendly. As in, with normal petrol, you go a bit too rich, you lose a hell of a lot of power. And with water, you run too much and it just causes misfires. It basically wets the cylinders too much and blows out the spark. But methanol, you can run such a wide range of AFRs without it causing a problem. Normally on normal pump fuel, anything below sort of mid to high 10s and you'll often get a misfire. With methanol, you can run far, far richer without it causing any kind of miss or big performance issue. On initial testing of this, I saw the AFRs go down to well into the 8s and it didn't have any misfire issue at all. But obviously I'm still going to run it at sort of high 10s, low 11s. But initial testing wasn't the nightmare it often is, because it still ran fine. I'm not going to explain how this is all fitted because it's pretty easy. It's just the usual kit from Devil's Own, which is push fit connectors, which makes it really good and easy to fit. And the jets screw into welding bungs, which are in these places that Zariski Motorsport kindly TIG welded on for me. The compressorizer one actually screws into where an outlet for the actuator would often have went on the standard engine. I just screwed into there, and they all go to this 6-port divider thing that spreads it out between them all. This is a one-way valve to stop the vacuum sucking all the fluid through, even with the pump off, and that's another one just before the line runs to the main tank. The tank is in the boot. It's like a 2.25 gallon. It's about 5-6 litres, I think. Securely mounted in the boot, already full of methanol. That's the pump, which I've currently fitted in the wheel well. Nothing special, but it does the job perfectly. All push lock connectors. It doesn't leak despite the big 300 odd psi that these things run. And probably most usefully is the controller in the car, which I'll show you now. That, if I can get the light okay, is the controller. Sorry about the reflection, it looks a bit crappy, but there you go. A lot of more basic water injection or methanol injection setups are just an on-off switch activated by an adjustable pressure switch, so you can activate it at whatever PSI, set it to 20, it comes on at 20 at full blast and stays like that. This one is effectively an adjustable map sensor. So this is a boost line. It runs into the car to where the ECU gets a boost reference from. And on here is 2 adjustable dials. So you've got a start pressure, which is when it starts injecting, and a full pressure, which is when it's going fully. So it's basically, it ramps up from wherever you set it to start to wherever you set it to finish. So it's very easy to adjust the amount you want to inject without having to change injector size. Well, without having to change jet size. I've got fairly small jets, but I've got 6 of them, and in total it makes a lot more fuel than most people would add, and certainly a hell of a lot more water than most people would add. But with this, it means I don't have to run them full on. For the initial testing I've done with this set, so it's on full by 15 psi, for example, AFRs went down into the 8s, which is ridiculous. At the moment I've got it set so it starts injecting at 12, and I've got full at 30, which I don't even reach. I'm only currently running 17, and basically what that means is it never injects fully. I've basically adjusted it until the AFRs were about right, basically. So with that set at 30, the maximum boost it goes to is 17. It's only injecting, say, 2/3 of the amount it could, which basically is making my AFRs high 10s, low 11s, which is absolutely perfect. And on the same boost without the meth, I'd be running sort of mid to high 12s, which isn't safe at all. So already it's worth its weight in gold. So yeah, personally, these adjustable controllers is the best thing you can buy. I've always just ran a simple on-off pressure switch in the past, but this thing's brilliant because it effectively allows you to quite easily map your fueling amount with your methanol. You know, before you'd have to just make a best guess with jets and, you know, adjust it with jets, and it's, you know, even an on-off thing is never going to be perfect. It'd be a bit rich at one point and then leaner later on as the airflow requirements get more. But with this, you can tailor it really well, and thanks to methanol being quite sort of friendly to AFR ratios, it doesn't really cause a big problem being a bit rich. This has been absolutely bang on. You know, the only way you could mess it up is if you got the jetting wildly wrong. So no matter how much you turned it up or down or whatever, the AFRs were still nowhere near. But as long as you got some kind of sense, which you'd hope to have, otherwise you wouldn't have any chance of doing any of this, you can make it work brilliant. So overall, the car is the same bar in that, but the difference this has made, I've done a very slight initial testing so far, and it's brilliant. I mean, the car's noticeably faster even at 18 psi, well 17 psi is running now, which is only a couple of psi more, but it's a fair bit quicker. Annoyingly, I didn't expect it to be easy to set up, so I didn't attach a GoPro to the back window like I normally do. But on initial testing, I had a brand new Focus RS have a go, and I easily pulled away from that, no problem at all. And I'm really a bit pissed off I didn't have that on GoPro footage. So that's a lesson learned. Never go anywhere without the GoPro strapped to the back window. But yeah, I will take it for a bit of a drive now to show you a few things with the boost, which I've got a different issue with. Not methanol injection related, but the meth has shown me that this is the next limiting factor. So watch this space. Another little change I've made is these ridiculous cat stickers, which are on the side windows and the rear window there. I stole this idea from Peter Bjork, who hopefully you follow on YouTube. He's got a crazy 2JZ Volvo 242, wow, 245 I think it is, because it's a Volvo 240 estate with a big power 2J in it, and he's now fitting a Lamborghini V10 into. And he had these on the back windows of his car, and they just made me laugh because it looks so stupid. So I thought it's a good way of hiding partially the fact that they've got a bucket seat and a stripped interior, and it just makes it look ridiculous like the stupid old granny car it is. On the slightly opposite end of the scale, I've also got G16 SIA as a number plate, hopefully to bait people into racing, because I don't know about you guys, but when I see a plate that says buy or SIA or whatever, I think, oh, that's dickhead, obviously thinks he's fast. And with a really slow looking car with a SIA plate, hopefully that'll bait a lot more people into showing me how fast they think they are. But time will tell with that. But so far, in initial playing about, that seems to have been working. So yeah, let's go for a little drive. I'll show you what the boost is doing now. See, that only peaked at 14. I can see a peak of, most of them was about 19. But the fact is, look at the duty cycle. 99% duty cycle. It's basically maxed out, the boost controller. Gain is 80, sensitivity 90, so it's pretty much as far as you'd ever want to go on the boost controller. Well, as far as it can go. But boost is only going to, depending on the load, second gear that was like 14. If I sort of roll on it at high boost, high gear, sorry, at low revs, and build it up that way, I've seen like 17, 18, 19. But that's it, at 99% duty cycle. So is that the turbo all out of puff, or is the actuator weak? I reckon it's the actuator, because the turbo's got a massive billet compressor wheel, and while the turbo wheel is pretty crap, that wouldn't make it drop boost, it would just restrict power. So I reckon it's lacking a bit of actuator. So yeah, what can I say? Meth's good. Boost control is still shit. I don't know if it's the actuator or if the turbo's all out of puff or what, but it's quicker now. Right, quick update after a little bit of driving and testing with the methanol and more boost. Basically, it's great. It's definitely much better with that. I can run much more boost without a problem. AFRs are brilliant. Managed to use a whole 5 litres of it already. But yeah, I can run more boost without any issues. The AFRs are still great, even though they would have went into the 12s above about 15 psi before. Now I've seen as high as 19 with no issue in the slightest, with AFRs going lean. So all good. The only thing I'm getting, and it's the same as I've always suffered with to some extent, and that is the boost isn't stable. Sometimes I'm seeing 14 psi at most, sometimes I'm seeing 19. I don't even know. I mean, the duty cycle on the boost control is 99% now. It's pretty much maxed out. So it's going to be either a boost leak, which I've checked and I haven't got, the actuator being weak, which is possible, or some kind of other funny issue, probably the boost controller being crap. Either the MAC valve is knackered or something. The first thing I'm going to do to check if this is the case with the boost controller being crap is go back to the mechanical one, which I was running before, and see if that changes things. But before that, I've made another change, which is to the breather system. As standard, they've got that one big outlet there on the breather, and on this side they've just got a tiny little one with a one-way valve going to the inlet manifold, which only sucks on vacuum. And while that might all be fine for standard cars, the way this is used and the way it's tuned, I don't really like only having one breather port and one which basically is tiny anyway and would only do anything off throttle when there's a vacuum. So I didn't really notice this before or take much notice, but as soon as I noticed it yesterday I changed it, and basically what I did was rip the one-way valve out, block it off on the inlet side, and basically made and tapped in a big copper, straight outlet, nearly 19mm ID, and ran basically a second big line to the catch tank. So I've got one there now and one there now. It seemed a no-brainer and a good idea to me, but after I'd done it I realised by looking on Google Images that the Celica World Rally cars and Corolla World Rally cars and pretty much every really big power 3S-GTE race car has got a big outlet there as well. So clearly it was a good idea because all the race cars have got it, but I just happened to do it because it seemed a good idea to me. But that's a backup to prove I'm not just imagining it would be a good plan. So yeah, another thing with that, this is why I'm not changing any of the boost controller stuff for now until I try it again, is because the one-way valve on that went to the inlet manifold, and if that was leaking it would obviously leak boost just into the rocker cover and therefore the crankcase. And to be honest, when I was just blowing it and messing about with it with my own mouth, the one-way valve just seemed to crap to me. Sometimes it sealed perfectly, sometimes it didn't seem to want to. So if the fluctuating boost is because sometimes that leaks, which is possible, then this could fix it, but I'll soon find out that.
6.5 hours later.
Right, after that quick road test, well, not that quick, I've been driving around for about an hour because it's addictive driving this thing. The boost is still the same. Basically, no matter what, it might peak at 20 odd, but it drops down to 14, 15 at the top end. Sometimes it'll only peak at 14, 15, but either way, it's not holding any more boost than that. So it's either the boost controller or the actuator, or the turbo's out of puff. I don't reckon the turbo's out of puff. I reckon it's probably the actuator. I'm going to test the boost controller first, just because it's an easy swap to a manual one, and that will tell me basically. So watch this space. Seeing as I've still not got stable boost control, I've gone back, albeit temporarily, to the mechanical ball and spring controller. Literally a 2-minute job to unplug the electronic one and quickly link up the new pipes to the new one, and I can just leave the spare pipes for the electronic one there so I can reconnect it in seconds. But yeah, I've reconnected that for now, and I'm going to give that a go, see if that makes the boost stable. If so, that points to the electronic one being crap, and if it is, well, there's my answer. If not, I'm going to have to change the actuator, which is a right pain in the ass because it's between the turbo and the engine block. Incredibly tight, but I should be able to do it, hopefully. One thing I will say from testing this meth injection is, while I've not actually checked the inlet temps on the ECU data log yet, just to touch, even now, the difference is pretty bloody significant. Before, there's no way I could touch these pipes. They heat soaked like hell, so we're damn hot. Now I can touch them, not a problem at all, which shows, while obviously they will still get heat soaked, the meth is cooling it down massively in between, which I would presume is doing the same to the inlet temps. But I need to see the data logging to find out. But first things first, I need to whip off this manual controller, whip off that actuator, which is a right ball ache, and fit the forged one, and hope it solves my problem, because if not, it's straight on with a new turbo, which I hope to not have to do straight away, but needs must. I want to go fast.
A few moments later.
Well, I've got the actuator off. It's this Kanagawa job aftermarket thing. It looked practically impossible to get it off, but thankfully there was no retaining pin in the back, and it seemed like it had no preload either. It was just, I mean, this is loose, but I don't think that would allow it to change because of the shape of the rod. But either way, there was pretty much no preload, which is probably why the boost wouldn't hold very well at all. And it might make the turbo spool a lot slower than it should have as well. But again, I don't know because I've removed it now. But getting the new one on looks like a right ball ache. But this one's off now. Just got to see if I can get the new one on. And well, I don't know. If I can't, I'm half tempted to just take the turbo off and fit the new one, because it'll be a lot easier to fit with it off the car. Just out of interest as well, although I don't think I've ever shown it you before, because this is a GT4 WRC edition engine. It's got all the pipe work for the anti-lag system. Just looped at the end because they're not operational, but if I hook that up to some kind of like an Evo anti-lag valve or something, and sorted out the electrics to run it, then yeah, it's all pretty set up for anti-lag already, which is pretty cool. I mean, proper rally anti-lag, not pops and bangs bullshit launch control. But yeah, actuator is there. I'm now gonna have a mess about and see if I can fit a new one. I've got my doubts, to be honest. That is methanol burning. Can't even see the flame, but that's a bit of blue roll that I soaked up some methanol I spilt in. I just lit it up and it's burning to a crisp, and you can just about see a bit of flame from it if you look really carefully. But that is quite a big methanol fire. Yeah, you can see when the wind blows it makes burning ash, and you can feel the heat from here. But methanol burns clear. Weird shit.